Life is a series of unscripted experiences that forge us into unique individuals. These are the experiences and stories of those who possess the will, beliefs, and fortitude required to overcome obstacles, pursue their passions, and achieve success. Welcome to the HawkCast with your host, AJ Hawk.
We'll jump right into it tonight. I'm back on having a visual element tonight. I'm recording with the great Nate Boyer. Nate, thanks for joining me here, man.
Great.
Well, for anyone that doesn't know Nate, you have a crazy story. I'm sure people have told you that before, but to give you a short cliff notes before Nate lets you know the real story, Nate's a kind of an inspirational dude to everybody that comes in touch with him or comes in touch with his story, I would say. But you're a California kid, I guess, turned fishing boat captain or / deckhand / Green Beret, the best of the best. Boom, Texas football into the NFL. Taught himself. Nate, did I hit it there? Did I get everything?
Pretty much.
But I just wanted to give your, I'm sure you're sick of kind of going through your whole story from bottom to top, but what, can you give us a little overview on what you're like, I don't know, man, like what drives you or what makes you this guy that wants to go out here and basically just conquer everything?
I don't know what that comes from. It's just, I think it's sort of grown on me through the years. I wasn't always like that. Like when I was in high school, for instance, I love sports, and I love basketball and baseball are my favorite sports. So that's what I played. I loved watching football, but I never played it when I was younger. It's something I didn't do, and so like playing those sports. I worked at it. I go to the gym and shoot extra and whatever, but I wasn't like obsessive about it like I got about long snapping or like trying to make the football team or be a Green Beret or anything like that. It just sort of came with time, and I think it was after failing a lot and then just kind of being like annoyed with that, not happy with the fact that you're putting your time into something and it's not working out. And I realized why it wasn't working out, because people were working harder than me. So I sort of started to make a decision in my life that no matter what I did, I might not be good at it, but no one was going to ever work harder than me ever again. And that's how you get stuff done. You know what I mean? I know you know that. Anybody, even the greatest players of all time at anything, will admit that they were never the most talented. You know what I mean? Kobe Bryant, I hear stories about him. I'm not a Kobe fan, but I've heard that guy shoots like, hours and hours and hours in the gym, especially after a loss or something like that. Like, it's crazy, but that's what it takes.
It is. And I actually have been a Kobe fan for a long time. Just because I love hearing those stories about him. He seems like a perfect mixture of a guy that was born with the crazy talent and the skills, and then he absolutely seems like he maximized all of that talent through his work. So I always got to respect a guy when he does that. I'm sure you've seen plenty of guys that were born with all the talent in the world, and then they just waste it because they don't want to work, or they don't want to, they might work one day and then take 4 days off. There's a thing with consistency, I think I find, through sports at least, that's what kind of weeds out the guys that don't want to be there, is that everyone works hard when they feel good, but there's going to be days when you don't want to be there, you're hurting, you're sore, you're tired, whatever happened, and you don't come to play that day or that day of practice. But is that anything when you were in the military? I'm going to bounce around here in case you're wondering, Nate. When you were in the military, so you joined, how old were you when you enlisted?
I actually didn't sign up until I was 23. So I went down to San Diego after high school and worked on a fishing boat for like a year. I wasn't ready for college in the sense of, like, I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I wasn't, wasn't offered scholarships anywhere for any sports. I could have played at like a JC or a small school, played baseball probably. But I wasn't that into it either. I just didn't know. I was just kind of like, I just wanted to get away from home. I had a great family. I love my family, but I just needed to, carve my own path, blaze my own trail, whatever you want to call it. So I just took off, and I went to San Diego, worked on the fishing boat, and it was great because it was was the first time in my life where besides working at a driving range, I was like, really working, like manual labor, hard work, blue collar, earning your paycheck. I loved that feeling, just kind of like being a man, I guess. I just felt like a man provided for myself. And that's kind of cool as an 18-year-old kid, to just have that feeling, pay all your own bills and all that stuff. And then, but I mean, I kind of got, there's only so far you can go with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cool job, don't get me wrong, but there's not much creativity in it. And, there's only so far you can kind of push yourself. The challenges sort of end in a way with that. And so then I moved up to Los Angeles, and I actually wanted to work in film. I didn't know exactly what, but I wanted to work in a film business somehow. And didn't work at it really, kind of partied, screwed around, traveled a lot. Like, I worked all kinds of different jobs, and I would save money up and start traveling. And I started to get depressed, I think, after a couple of years of that, because I was just spinning my wheels, not going anywhere. And so then I ended up going to the Darfur in Sudan and doing relief work out there. And going to a place like that, in the middle of the Sahara in Africa, and seeing being around the poverty, not just the poverty, but just, it's war torn, and there was a genocide going on, and all this, like, totally something out of my comfort zone I'd never seen. It just changed me. And, I learned to appreciate everything we had here. So much more than that, I wanted to help people and fight for people that couldn't fight for themselves, So that's sort of, that coupled with 9/11 sort of got me, that's why I joined the military.
Man, and how did you get to Sudan? Were you with the Peace Corps or anything, or how did that happen? Or were you chasing a girl?
No.
Usually that's what happens with those guys.
Yeah, no, I was not chasing a girl. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Or a guy. I wasn't chasing anyone.
Yeah. Either one, you're good to go, man. I'm okay with it.
No, but I basically, I called every NGO that was out there, with non-governmental organization, like Doctors Without Borders, Child Fund, Catholic Relief Services, all these organizations. And I was like, man, I just want to go over there and help. I'll fly myself over there and just, can I go with y'all? Is there a way I can get into the country and get, the proper circulation papers I need and all that? Everyone just told me no, because I didn't have college education. I didn't have any special skills that would really help, I guess. And so I just got a lot of no's from people.
And you were only 20 at the time?
No, at that time I was 22, maybe. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So this was after LA. So, but just to do that, did you have I mean, that's crazy to me. That's admirable to think that you were going to call around on your own thinking you wanted to help. Did you, I don't know, did that just hit you one day in the middle of the night, or was that something that you envisioned someday of doing?
Oh, yeah. I never even thought about that. I mean, I'd always, I guess I'd always been, I wouldn't say jealous, but I just felt like I was not born in the right time. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to explore anymore. You know what I mean? It's all been found. And so that, I always kind of felt like that. But this was like, I was in a rut here. I'm back in LA now. I was in a rut here at the time. Didn't know what I wanted, wasn't happy, couldn't find that thing I didn't have that spark inside. Nothing was pushing me, no passion. And it was a Time magazine article actually that a buddy showed to me, because a friend of his was like an assistant photographer on this shoot or something. And I'm looking at these pages, and it's from it was a photojournalism article from over there, from the Darfur. And it was crazy seeing this stuff. I mean, just seeing that much suffering, really. I mean, all the women over there have been raped, and the children are all like, not all, but a lot of them have been maimed, and they're, it's heartbreaking. And then all the men are off fighting or already killed. It was militias riding into these villages and just, raping and pillaging essentially, and just burning it to the ground and leaving. And it was all, religious based stuff, and rape. Just, that's what a genocide is, just they're a little bit different color than me, a little different background. And I don't get it, but that's what it was. And so I just from flipping through that magazine, I was like, it just hit me. I was like, I got to go over there. That's where I'm going. And I just made the decision, and I wasn't going to take no. So just made it happen.
And how long were you over there?
I was only over there for 60 days. That's the longest visa I could get for me to, stay there. It was like a travel visa. I don't even know what kind of visa I got. I BS my way like all over the place, getting into the country and then getting out to the camps. But it worked out.
What'd you do when you were there to help? Like, was it overwhelming to see how much work was needed or how much help was needed?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of local people who so the refugee camps are actually in Chad, which is the neighboring country, and there was a lot of people there that were locals that are hired by the UN basically to work at the camps and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, especially for a lot of the kids and a lot of those people, it was really a lot of the young people. I'd say it was really special for them to have an American come over there, because I didn't meet one other American when I was there. The only other, it's a French-speaking country, so there's some doctors from Belgium and France and stuff like that, but just no Americans, and so they thought that was like the coolest thing ever. You know what I mean? Everyone wanted to come meet the American, talk to the American. I was playing soccer with the kids, and I was like just assisting in the medical centers, but not. I wasn't saving anybody's life. they probably saved me more than I saved them, but I was just being a presence there and just helping out any way I could. And it made me, like I said, appreciate everything I had, and then want to realize that these people are worth fighting for.
It seems like it gave you some perspective, and that's something that I talk all the time. I have a couple young kids and a third on the way, and I always get worried about, like, how are we going to give these kids perspective? They're growing up so nice, like, so we're not going to spoil them like we can, but you can't help but be spoiled when you live in a decent house and you live in a good neighborhood and good schooling. Like, what kind of adversity are they going to face? And you got to take them out and let them know that there's people a lot worse off, I think. And we're already scheduling trips with our kids and try to take them to, help all kind of people come at retirement homes already, just different things that they don't normally see. But
right.
Was that when you went over there, did that put the seed in your mind that you wanted to get into the military so you could go help people?
Yeah, absolutely. Not just the military, but the special forces in particular, because I knew that they worked with indigenous people. You know what I mean? So, like, when we go over there, we train with, and then we fight alongside, people in the third world. And so, yeah, that was a huge part of it.
So how long until you signed up when you got back in country?
Like a week.
Really?
I came back and I was like, that's what I'm doing.
That's a movie, man. Someone probably will. I don't know if you might be in the talks about having a movie on your life, but that is like a movie that you. And then what year would that have been? 9/11 had already happened, right?
Yeah, so I signed up in 2004.
Okay. And then, so, bam, you're in the Army. Was it what you expected right off the bat?
Of course, it was harder than I thought it would be. Like, I think a lot of things end up like that. Fortunately for me, I like sign up for something before I have time to talk myself out of it or realize how difficult this is going to be. It's probably a bad habit in some ways, but it's worked so far, because, if I would have thought too long about the reality of going back at, 29 and playing college football at a school like Texas without ever playing before, if I would have thought about it too long, I probably would have been like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
You probably would have talked yourself out of it. Yeah, that's what happens with anybody when you overanalyze something. So I think that's a great strategy. Just jump in, and then you figure out a way to get it done. That's life, man. That's how it goes.
Here's the thing. I guess it's like you said. You said, was it harder than you thought? Like, it is harder than you thought at first. But then once you get done with it at the end of the day, and you see that in the NFL too, it's like nobody's superhuman. Like, they're all just people, that just, a lot of them work hard. A lot of them are super talented. But we all are, stupid at our core and make dumb decisions and, have feelings, get our feelings hurt, whatever. We're all the same. So And then when you put people on a pedestal like that, I think it makes those things harder, because that's a lot of way that people have looked at me. They're like, "Oh, you're a Green Beret. You're a Green Beret." I'm like, I'm just like you, man. I just made a decision to, try to become part of this unit, but I'm not like this. I'm not like one of those Halo characters or something like that.
Well, I mean, that's you're being humble with that. I mean, everyone knows that. Anyone that goes and signs up to be a part of that and becomes, and you live that. And I think you said you were in for 6 years before you got out. I mean, it's super, it's crazy. Guys like me and people that didn't have any experience in that, we can't even wrap our heads around it. So I always have ridiculous amounts of respect for it. But you're right. It's funny when you said everyone still, when to get down to it, you guys are the same and are idiots and make poor decisions. I think any job is that. So you're right. When you put a guy on a pedestal and you want to think that these people aren't laughing or joking or having fun. It's like football, you're out in the field, you played. A lot of times if you're watching from the stands, it looks so like cutthroat, dead serious, like, oh my gosh, these guys it's life and death out there. And if you mic them up and you follow them, like in the heat of the battle, guys are joking around, sometimes talking about their family, and messing around. And then if a guy has a good one and says something to you, like I've had to give a guy credit if he had a good one and says something that I feel like is really, maybe he did his research on me and found out some info or something. I'm like, I got nothing, man. That was good. That was a good one. You did your work. So that's like, did you have that same atmosphere, like a brotherhood and fun, like, how guys, especially guys get around, all you do is just make fun of each other and mess with each other and play practical jokes and mess around. Did you have that same kind of brotherhood in the Green Berets?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's much smaller teams. We're like 10 to 12 man teams, So, and you're with those guys, like, I mean, it becomes more than a brotherhood. It's like literally a family, because like on a deployment, my first deployment was about 9 or 10 months long, and I'm lived with those same 11 guys the entire time. Like in the same team house, see them every day, spend every waking moment with the same guys. So, you love them, you hate them, you fight with them, you laugh with them. I mean, it's like, just imagine if training camp was like full lockdown, can't leave the facility for 10 months. You know what I mean?
There'd be dead guys all over the place. Fights.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't
Luckily,
imagine.
we have bad guys to shoot at, so we don't shoot each other.
That's like your guys' release. Football, you go out and you go hit each other in practice, and then you're so tired they don't have time to mess around too much, before they fall asleep. But yeah, you guys have that release where you get to go protect our freedoms. Now, like, that made me think of something. So say you guys, like you said, 9-10 month deployment, you guys are living together, spending every waking moment. Of course, a bunch of alpha male dudes that are competitive, there's issues going to come up. How do you guys not let those carry over into missions if something was really bad, or really, you guys have a pretty heated deal, or a couple guys aren't getting along, or is it the second that you guys are preparing for a mission and ready to go, it's just everything else, nothing else matters?
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying about like family, like, so if you were with, even you got a brother, I don't know if you have more than one. You
have two older brothers, yeah.
Two brothers. So, if you guys bicker all day long, but, if anybody was ever going to try to put a finger on him, like, you wouldn't care how angry you were at him. Like,
you're going to kill him.
It all changes.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, you love him, even though you might not like him all the time, like, you always love him. So it's the same type of deal.
That's a great point, man. I like how you answered that. Yeah, it's true. I guess it's like the whole thing. Someone can complain about whoever, their family member or spouse or whatever all day, but if you do it, you cross the line, buddy.
Exactly.
That makes sense. So that's what you guys, man. So your first deployment is 9 or 10 months. Can you talk about where that was?
I was in Iraq.
What year was that? Would that have been?
That actually didn't come until 2008. So when I first came in, I went through all the training. It takes like 2 years to go through all the training to be a Green Beret. So when I first came in, I went to basic training first, and that's where honestly, the first 3 weeks of basic it wasn't the hardest thing I ever did, but mentally for me, it was probably the hardest, because I just was, I don't know, I guess I didn't know what I was capable of yet. You know what I mean? So I didn't have that confidence yet. So I remember like those first couple weeks being like, I'm not gonna freaking make it. There's no way. Like, I mean, I'll probably be in the infantry. That'll be cool, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna be a Green Beret. And then I started to like just keep working. I mean, I never quit on anything, but I just wasn't in good shape. I used to roll my own cigarettes and freaking drink too much. And when I joined the Army, I weighed like $150. I mean, I was not.
Wow.
I was not athletic. Not in athletic shape. Say that.
Now, why would you roll your own cigarettes? What, you didn't want to buy them or what?
It's cheaper and they taste better.
All right. Okay.
Have you ever done it? Have you ever done it?
No.
I mean, you don't need to do it. Don't do it. But I'm saying.
Do you still roll your own cigarettes just every once in a while for old time's sake?
I'll roll one for like a friend or something. But yeah, I don't. I smoked one like a month ago for the first time in years, and it was awful. It was I felt so bad. I mean, I had a few too many, and I was like, a buddy of mine was smoking. I was like, give me one of those, and that was just like the worst decision ever. I woke up and felt like way more hungover from the cigarette as I had from any alcohol I've drank in the last 5 years.
Oh, well, hey, you live and learn, buddy. You live and learn. That's how it works. You jump in and then you figure it out later. So basic was 3 weeks.
Yeah, no. Basic's like 14 weeks. That was just the first 3 weeks of it. So basic, when you're in the infantry, basic training is longer because you have infantry school attached to it. So the average basic training, I think, is just like 9 weeks, and then we do an additional 5 weeks infantry school. But the first 3 weeks were just hard for me because I had to break all those habits, and like get myself. We start running every day, like right off the bat, and when you're not used to it, I mean, it's just like if you went to training camp without doing shit for, since the last season or since 4 years ago, you would just be destroyed. It takes a while to get back. So.
Okay, and then I've heard you say. So I heard you on I don't know if I'm sure you remember going on Joey Diaz's podcast, the Church of.
Oh yeah.
Joey's
hilarious.
Church of What's Happening Now. Is that right? I don't know. I never remember the title of it, but oh yeah, my gosh, I'm a huge fan of Joey, and he's just hilarious. But I heard you talk about it on there. So you knew when you enlisted that you wanted to be a Green Beret, right?
Yeah.
So do you tell them that like the day you sign up?
So the way it works, I don't know how it works now, but the way it worked back then was you go into a recruiter's office and a lot of kids go in there, a lot of 18, 19-year-old kids go in there and they don't know what they want to do. They just want to join the Army or be a Marine or whatever. And so then the recruiter, what a lot of times they will do is they'll find like whatever the Army needs the most, like what are the needs of the Army, and try to fill you in that slot. And they'll be like, oh man, yeah, you should be a freaking, whatever. You should be a cook. You should be a maintenance guy, and then, but a lot of the kids will be like, oh, but I want to be like a sniper, or something cool. And they're like, yeah, you could do that. You could do that. But if you do this, like you just apply for that. They'll let you do that, So goes pretty much half of people that join the military story, and, but you go in there and you know what you want. I mean, if you qualify for it. So I had to take like psych evals, language aptitude tests, like a Wonderlic, like you do, before football, physical exam. You have to go through all these things just to get the contract to let you try out for special forces after basic training and airborne school. So I'm like that contract had just started, I think, in 2003, and so I was one of the first ones to go through that. It was called the 18 X-ray program. So it's basically, you come in off the street and can come in. You can be a Green Beret within a couple of years, which is pretty rare, because usually it's senior guys that have been in for a long time.
And so you qualify for when you qualify for that, or the contract that you get, does that qualifies you just to get into like I don't know, what do you call it, the Green Beret training or school or whatever? Like, because I know SEALs have buds and whatever they call it. What does the Green Beret call it? What do they call it?
It's called SFAS, is Special Forces Assessment and Selection. That's the selection course that's like a month long before you start your training. You know what I mean? So you have to pass that to even start trying to be a Green Beret, pretty much. But but yeah, so you go to airborne school, basic training, and then for me and all the other X-rays, we went to like a pre-selection course, which was actually almost harder than selection itself. And so what they did in that was, because a lot of it's like individual stuff, a lot of it's land navigation, and you're doing stuff on your own, you know, out in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, with a compass and a map, and just trying to, yeah. So it's tough, man. It's difficult, and it's a lot of miles. You know, they put a lot of stress on your body. So it was just, yeah, it was just preparing you for selection. So if you got through that, which you know, half of us did or so, you had a pretty good shot of making it through selection.
Okay, and where were you at mentally when you started the pre-selection thing? When you're thinking like, "Wow, this," I'm sure there's plenty of times where I would guess you're thinking, "What in the hell is selection going to be like in actual training? If this is like the pre-training I'm doing."
Yeah, yeah. Well,
man, yeah.
I started to prepare myself in basic. So after those 3 weeks, I started to realize like I was actually, you know, I was fast again. I hadn't ran in like a long time, but I started running. I could run like, you know, we're running long distances, and I'm beating a lot of the guys, and then pretty soon I'm beating everybody in my whole platoon, and I'm starting to put muscle on. I can like notice the difference in the mirror, because every chance I get, I'm doing extra push-ups. Like before, every time we go to the dining hall, you know, they're like, make sure you do whatever, 10 pull-ups before you go in and eat, and when you go out and leave, you know, make sure you do whatever. Well, I'd always like double everything. And then half the guys would, if no one was looking, they wouldn't do the stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'd do like, okay, I'm going to do 20 pull-ups before I go eat. And then when I leave the dining hall, I'm going to go do 100 push-ups, you know, before I go up to get ready for whatever we're doing next. And just keep doing that kind of stuff. And then eventually we started to have a couple times a week, we'd have maybe an hour or two free, you know, or 3, maybe a whole afternoon free on a Sunday. And they'd be like, yeah, you can go to church services if you want, or you can relax, or you can clean your stuff, whatever. Well, I would go to the track and do like a mile of lunges, something crazy like that. You know what I mean? Or like fill my rucksack up with like a bunch of rocks, so I weighed like 100 pounds, then just, you know, do laps and stuff like that. It's just so stuff that seemed really, really hard, and just kind of breaking my body down, just so I would be mentally ready for that, you know, used to that kind of stuff when I went on to selection.
And so how long from when you signed up until you officially, like, what signifies when you officially become a Green Beret? Do you guys have a graduation ceremony?
Yeah. So after you get through selection and you start to train, there's like 5 phases of training, you know, and some of it's most of it's like team oriented, you know, and that's what takes about a year and a half. And then you get through all that, and then you have a big graduation ceremony where it's pretty cool, man. They have like, you know, a lot of kind of the former Green Berets there, and then, you know, current guys, and they do it at this special spot on base at the unit, and it's kind of a cool deal.
I can imagine. So how did that feel? I would assume your family and everybody came out for that. Like, what was that one of the like high points or times in your life you were most proud, or like inside of what you had done?
Yeah, for sure. I remember, like my mother, for instance, when I first signed up for the military, she was kind of like, oh, here we go again. Like, you know, he doesn't know what he's getting into, which I didn't. She's right. But, you know, by the end of that, just seeing how proud she was, you know, that I stuck it out and not only didn't quit, but I made, you know, I was successful. I made it happen. And I knew she would, you know, she stresses out a lot. You know, she's on the border of a panic attack, like, constantly. But
she's a mom.
Yeah.
Isn't that all of them? I understand. I mean, I get it a little bit having kids. I understand how moms can do that, but I can imagine how she might have looked at you, or like seen. Did you get a glimpse of her or anything during that ceremony? Like, I can imagine, man. I'm just thinking, like, as a parent myself, like, man, how many emotions would be going through their head when they saw their son graduating this and becoming this such like the tip of the spear.
Yeah. I probably would notice that stuff more now, you know, like I was still kind of young then, I think. But I know, like I said, I could tell how proud she was. But it's funny now. I think back on that now. If I would have seen her in a situation like that, I probably would have got emotional, just because, you know, that's how I'm getting now that I'm getting in my old age. You know, I just my feelings I get hit in the feels a lot more than I used to.
Hey, own it. I talk about it all the time, man. That's me. That is me. I'm not scared. I'm not scared to get emotional and anything. Every kid I have just gets worse and worse for me. I'm just crying in public places, giving speeches. Yeah, it's a broken record with me when it comes to that. But it's something about it, man. You get older and it's true. Like I don't claim I'm not smarter. I'm not more mature or anything. But you like look at things I think differently, or maybe you step back and look at things just from like a point of view that was different before. You were just you're young and full of piss and vinegar, graduate, becoming like, yeah, I'm Green Beret, let's do this, man. But now, like you said, if that was now, you probably would like take a second to think how everyone else around you feels too. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
It's something about getting older. What are you, 34 now?
34, yep.
All right, gosh, you're still so young with all you're doing. Well, I mean, you got a million things that I want to ask you about, but what? I'm sure you get sick of talking about training and stuff because that's what people always ask you. But that's such a interesting thing for me, that whole process, like how long it is, the teamwork that is involved with it, and how the mental and physical, just what they put you through, just is nuts to me. But so after you graduate, are you assigned a team then?
Yeah, so I graduated in, I guess it was '06, and sort of the end of '06, and I got so I'm all excited, like you're talking about, full of piss and vinegar. I'm ready to go to Afghanistan. I'm ready to go to Iraq. Like, send me now,
Yeah,
I'm
you're gonna go grab Bin Laden yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I get my orders, and it says I'm going to Okinawa in Japan, which it's beautiful, but I was just like, oh my gosh, like I had a feeling I wouldn't be deploying anytime soon. So that was a little bit frustrating. So I went out there, and I just was like, I was kind of bummed out. I was kind of set. The first job I had since I graduated, like everybody gets a different job when they're in the Q course, in the qualification course. And so I was assigned I was a communicator. So I learned how to, work the SATCOM radios and stuff like that. And like you cross train and everything, but you have a specialty that you learn first. So like there's a guy that's a medic, there's a guy that's an engineer, there's a guy that's like the weapons specialist, and on and on and on. And so I go out there and they're like, oh, well, you're going to be sitting in it's called the SIGDET, which stands for the signal detachment. So basically I'm going to be like the radio bitch when I first get to the unit, like right off the bat, which it doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to some people sometimes. Sometimes a medic, he gets stuck in the med shed when he first gets to unit. I mean, you don't necessarily go to a team right away all the time. And so I was just like super bummed out about that, and they're telling me, yeah, you're going to go to, you're about to go to the Philippines for a year on this rotation. And I was like, God, like technically that's a combat deployment, but you're not going to be getting your gun on in the Philippines. You know what I mean? So, like, honestly, what happened was I can talk about it now, I guess, since I'm not, because I got out in February, but the Delta Force recruiters came out there, and most of the guys that go to Delta selection are like, they've been in for, 10 years with like 4 deployments under their belt, all this stuff. I go up to the guy and, and I go into listen to the, what do you call it? They have a brief about it, and I go up to him afterwards and he's like, he's telling everybody you should be in special forces for at least 2 years as a Green Beret, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, I've only been here a couple months. I've actually only been in the Army for 2 years total. But, I mean, I excelled at a lot of things, physically and mentally. I'd love to at least put a packet in and see what happens, And he was like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen, but you can turn it in. And, I already had like my top secret clearance paperwork done and like all this stuff ahead of time since I was sitting around not deploying. So I gave him that stuff. He emails me a week later and is like, someone dropped out of selection and I got you a slot in the next one coming up like in 2 months. So I was like, okay. So yeah. So I basically tell my commanders like, yeah, I'm going to go try out for selection. They're like, all right, you better make it or you're going to be in the Philippines forever. So anyway, yeah, that's sort of the next phase.
So wow. And you're So you go to Delta. What? All right.
You're not getting the scoop here, man. I don't know if I've told the story.
I mean, I don't want to get. I don't. Well, this thing isn't live right now, but I don't want to be. I don't want to be getting in trouble. Obviously, I don't want you getting in trouble. But I want to. That's. I remember you saying something before. I've listened to you on an interview talk about how you've like not said anything. Like I don't know if you've said it was you were going to the Delta Force or whatever, but you said something about like, well, there's training, whatever. Or you said I can't talk about it or something, but. What does that mean then? Where do you go for Delta Force training?
I went out there. I went through I can't talk about any specifics that we do over there, but I went through their selection course.
Can you say where over there is?
It's in the eastern part of the United States.
Oh, it's in America. Okay, that's all.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so I went over there and went through their selection, and I mean, like Army time wise, I was by far like the youngest person there. Everyone there had like multiple deployments. The class before mine, I think out of 100 and I don't even know 50 guys that went through it, like 3 guys got selected because they had a bunch of snow. You know, like it was just they just don't change the standards for anything, which is awesome. You know, so I went out there, went through selection, somehow made it, and then I go out to their training course, and I was just too young. I was too green. You know what I mean? I learned so much in the 6 months I was out there, but I was not ready to be put on a team and, you know, deploy with them. But what they did do once I finished, you know, got through all that stuff, they were just like, look, you know, you need some more, you need to get a deployment with Special Forces, to be honest, with the Green Berets. And I was like, yeah, I totally agree. Please send me on one. And so they put me on a team that was deploying out of Colorado Springs like the next month. And so I went out there with all this great training I just got and got to go to Iraq straight from there. And that was the beginning of 08. So that's what brings us kind of to 08.
So were you officially a member of Delta Force then when you went out there?
No, because you're training with them. So like I was selected by them, but I never was put on put in squadron, which is like their unit structure. So no, I guess technically I was never. Yeah, I wouldn't call myself that anyway because I didn't. I think you have to earn that with the deployment. I would say, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, those guys are. I still got friends out there. It's an unreal place. I mean, it's unbelievable. I wish I could describe it to you, but yeah.
Yeah, I won't ask you to break any laws there, but will you? Like, what would be I wonder about like this crazy high achievers like you and those guys. Like, what is there anything you can think of when you went out there to that training that like a common thread through those, like the instructors and the guys that made it through the selection that any of you had, you know, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out like why, like how the human brain and body can do things of that stature, you know, of that magnitude, you know. I don't know, like I don't even really know what I'm trying to ask you, but like how did you, when you got there, were you at least, I think I would have been greatly, I don't know, not overwhelmed, but like just in awe of what these guys are doing and probably what you built up in your mind over the years. You know, was it something that lived up to the hype or exceeded the expectations you might have had for that kind of training and the people there?
Definitely. I mean, the hype, it's funny because the hype's just the wrong hype. You know what I mean?
It's like Charlie Sheen in Navy SEALs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Chuck Norris in Delta Force.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, much better reference.
It's great.
Good job. Chuck's still rolling, by the way. Still doing great.
Yeah, you need to get him on here if he hasn't been on yet.
Oh, I would love him. Chuck and his awesome rug and his beard. He's going at 70 years old. Be great.
But yeah, it's just the amount of professionalism. You know, those guys are incredible. It's like you were talking about earlier about joking around in the locker room. You know, like they take every piece of training so seriously and so intensely. And when it comes, it doesn't matter if it's like physical training, like they're just working out or whatever. They're not wasting a second, wasting an ounce of energy. Everything has a purpose and is a specific, there's a specific meaning behind everything they're doing. But at the end of the day, you know, when the whistle blows or whatever, the last whistle blows, whatever you want to call it, it's like just chill guys want to have a beer that you want to have a beer with and not talk about work with. just yeah, it's not, they're not like this all the time switched on robotic beings. You know, they're just like we were talking about. They're just humans, also. You know, they're just people, and they got families. Most of those guys have families. That's another common misconception. I think like 80 or 90% of the guys over there are family men. You know, so it's just as professional as it gets, and just the resources they have is unbelievable. You know, and the level of training, it's unmatched.
It makes us all sleep better. I think, knowing that there's guys like you and all of them out there that are doing the things that we're not willing and not able to do. I like that you said that everything has a purpose. They don't waste any time. Like that's one of my biggest pet peeves, and I would imagine the military guys yourself, like, is inefficiency. Like when things are inefficient, if we have, let's say we have 3 hours of meetings, well, we could have probably done this in 45 minutes. Like there's definitely days like that I've had, and everybody's had, that's played sports or been in a job, anything, where just for no reason. And I don't know. Is that something that when you go from maybe like infantry to Green Beret, Delta, do you feel like the efficiency level, gets better and better everywhere you go?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a common thing of high achievers, is they're efficient in their time.
It's easier too when you have, I will say, I'll defend the infantry in this aspect, is, an infantry unit has way more people and much younger guys that sometimes need that structure and those, you know what I mean? They need that. They don't need a long leash. You know what I mean? They need it. They need to like be told where to be and when, even if it's way too early, because if you don't, it's going to be all over the place. But, as the units, as you raise in stature, I guess, or whatever, in the higher levels of those units, it's less guys. They're usually older, more mature, more experienced. And then especially up at the highest echelons. I mean, your main missions are hostage rescue and counterterrorism. You know what I mean? So like, there is no time to mess around. Every single thing you're doing is like, I mean, it's a high risk, and we're fighting a high threat war, and it's just, you have to be on point. You have to be switched on. You have to be, every step has to have a reason,
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I wasn't trying to slight the infantry there for any guys.
I know. I'm just defending them as to why.
Oh yeah, believe me, I've had a multiple, couple guys that decent, like, buddies I've gotten over the years that are Navy SEALs that have been on here, and it's like whatever you are, like, you military guys are amazing. I was joking saying, well, do you guys think that like you're the best though, and that Green Berets or Delta sucks or whatever? He's like, no, we have a ton of respect for all of them. We work hand in hand with them a lot, but yeah, we are the best. Like, that's what a lot of guys say, like, joking around.
They have the best hair. They have the best hair. That's about it. They have the best hands, the best hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and the biggest egos.
Well, because they get hyped up by all these Hollywood movies.
There you go.
That's right. That's why, man. The
Green Beret movie. John Wayne played the Green Berets. John Wayne and Sylvester Stallone were the two like famous Green Berets. You can't beat that.
Two great Americans.
And Chuck Norris and Chuck. You think Chuck Norris and Charlie Sheen? That's even like an argument as to who's going to win that fight? Like, stop. Stop.
It's obviously not, especially if you've seen the ad that Chuck Norris had. It's recently popped up. It was like in the 80s, I think. And it was these like stretchy jeans. They were jeans with like stretchy material in them, which actually I think have come back now. Like, jeans have like that. Yeah, exactly. And he's got an ad of him with his leg over his head. He's so damn flexible. He could probably still do that at 75 years old. So yeah, Chuck is winning that all day long. Charlie would tell you that too.
Sorry, Bradley.
Oh goodness. Well, that's what that. I mean, I want to get back for a second into your deployment, but I wanted to ask you quickly. I know you're big into. You said you wanted to get into films, whatever that may be. You did an internship with Pete Berg, right?
Yep.
What did you do with him? Because he directed Lone Survivor, right?
Yeah, and Friday Night Lights too.
When did you do that internship?
I was in the spring while I was kind of training up for pro day and stuff.
Oh, so recently?
Yeah, I was finishing my master's degree, and as part of my master's, instead of doing a thesis, I did an internship out here. My master's was actually in advertising, which is not related to film that much, but I had like an emphasis in production, and I knew I wanted to work in this industry again one day, you know. So I came out here and made talked to some people on the phone and was able to make that happen, and it was awesome. You know, it was really cool experience. He's a cool guy.
He seems like it. I saw the like behind the scenes thing he did with when he was filming Lone Survivor,
Yeah.
and I wanted to get your opinion on how you think like the military is portrayed like in recent movies. I would say I'm excluding Charlie Sheen in Navy SEALs when they say every like hack cliche line possible, but like in recent ones, I know it's always like a hot topic. Well, like American Sniper, Lone Survivor, all those. Like, do you think the military is ever portrayed in the right light or even close to what they could do?
It's getting a lot better, definitely. It's always still going to be a movie, and so to make a movie work, and that's what I'm learning when I'm out here. It has to follow a certain arc. You know what I mean? And certain beats, certain things have to happen at certain times. So the story always has to get changed a little bit. That's just part of the game. It's never going to be exactly. And then, but as far as like the authenticity, like with they have military consultants on these things. That it's just getting better and better. The first one that I saw that I thought was really good in that way was The Hurt Locker. I don't know if you remember that movie.
Oh yeah, Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, when I saw that, that was the first one because that was before Lone Survivor, before American Sniper. That was the first one for me. It was about the modern war that I really thought they just looked pretty good. It wasn't perfect. I mean, anybody that's watching this, I'm sure there's 20 guys right now. They're like, no way. What about this part? I mean, yes, it's a movie still, but it looked more authentic than I'd seen a lot of these things, and that's what's more important to me. Like, does it look right? Does everything look right? Does the way they talk, is that the way they would talk? As far as what they would do, that guy would never go off by himself, or that guy would never do that or that. Like that's where the movie part of it, is going to dominate. But as long as the people sound like they're supposed to sound, they're saying the things they're supposed to say, they're tactically they look like and move like they should. That's definitely getting better and better with every film, I think.
That seems to be something that Pete Berg, I know when I watched like the behind the scenes stuff for Lone Survivor, he was really, really aware of, and he wanted to honor those military guys. And he had like Marcus Luttrell on set, it seemed like the whole movie, and then multiple other SEALs. And the thing that was cool with me that I thought when they would interview the actors who were portraying these real guys that were in this, this battle. And I read the book years ago, I remember, and was just blown away. But the actors, it was great to see. I think Pete Berg must have done a lot of work when he was casting it, talking to these guys, because the level of respect that these actors had when they would interview them, they'd say, honestly, man, I'm so scared to death. I don't even care about my lines, anything. All these military guys are here, and I just want to make sure that I do right by them. And because some of them obviously died, and they wanted to look right and move right. And that was one of the things that Marcus and the other guys, when they would talk to him, were always aware of. And it seemed like the little things, is that like as a military guy, I'm sure you're watching for like the little things that none of us would probably notice, like, if how he's holding his weapon, obviously, or what, like you said, what he says. And is that something that can put you out right away where you're like, this movie has no credibility to me?
Yeah, I mean, no, that's where it starts, though. Guys like Pete Berg and other filmmakers too that are not only willing to, like, they demand reaching out to these guys and having them on the set, having them read the script and make sure, having them work hand in hand throughout the whole process to make it right. I think it wasn't always like that in the past because, sometimes, Hollywood's not the most military supportive place, maybe. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like Hollywood hates soldiers. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I think it's becoming more and more now, like, I think they're realizing how important it is to incorporate these guys if they want to do it right. And also, like, something that I think is interesting is, the success of American Sniper, for instance, internationally. I mean, that movie made a ton of money. Usually these military movies, they don't have international appeal. That movie was playing in theaters in Iraq, and there's people in the audience when Bradley Cooper's character has the he's got the guy in his sights, the kid who picks up the RPG. There's people in the audience yelling, shoot him, shoot him, shoot him.
Wow.
Crazy. You know what I mean? So that just speaks to the fact that I think they're making the characters more human. They still could get even better at that, but they're making them more just like people, like dudes. They're not making them these like bionic beings that are just trained killers. You know what I mean? Which is awesome. I mean, and that's, you got to take your hat up to Hollywood finally on that front. But I hope that continues, and now I'm waiting for them to do a little more of the, it's always it's always these tragic stories and tragedy, So I think that there's good stories too of veterans overcoming some stuff and doing some great things. So that's, I don't know. I think that's coming down the road. But
do you think that's going to be part of what you do? Are you what are you doing currently out there now in like the film industry, and what do you look to get into?
Yeah, I mean, I've only been back like a month, I guess, since getting released. But dude, I want to do everything, man. Eventually, I'd love to produce my own stuff. Honestly, I'd love to do like what Pete Berg's doing. I don't know if I have the talent to be a director. We'll see. That's something would be down the road, but I want to be involved in the whole process. I'm actually working on one right now that's an independent deal called Thunder Road, and it's cool. It was started by these three guys who are actors, didn't serve in the military, but they cruised around the country for like 2 years or 3 years, interviewing veterans and families of people that have lost family members either overseas or to suicide. That's a huge. The veteran suicide rate is 22 a day right now in the country, which is awful. Man. It's crazy. So they did all this research, and then they're working on the script right now, and we're coming along. Like we got some good people involved that I can't mention, but that are going to executive produce it with us and help it get off the ground. But we got to get, it's got to get better. The script's got to get better still and all that. But so I'm part of that. I was fortunate to have the guy that wrote American Sniper, Jason Hall. He's a buddy of mine out here, good guy, and he's writing another script right now about veterans and some of the issues that we're facing back here at home. And he sent it to me last week to read, and he's like, yeah, give me notes, tell me what to do. So like that's really cool to just be a part of that, even though I'm not worried about the money. I'm not guaranteed any jobs in this stuff, but just to be involved because I'm so new at this already, to have people like that kind of reaching out to you to help them out is awesome.
It is. Are you still pursuing, playing in the NFL?
Yeah, I'm still snapping. I snapped yesterday, actually.
To Glazer? Is Glazer catching it for you?
Nah, he can't catch. There's no 5'2" punters in the NFL.
You can't catch when you have blackberries in both hands and two of them just texting and answering calls all day.
Exactly.
Breaking all the news for everybody in the country.
While wearing boxing gloves.
You're right. Unbreakable Performance Center, right? Isn't that where his spot?
That's where I train at, man. It's a spot.
It is. It really is. I talk to a lot of people that work out there. They love it, man. So what would it take for, like, as a long snapper, how crazy is it? 53 minutes in right now, and we haven't talked about your football prowess yet. I'm sorry to if it bores you to talk about your military experience, and I have a million military questions I still want to ask you, but don't worry, I won't keep you all night. Do we need a long snapper to tear an Achilles or something? Like, how do we get you back in?
I'll say that, man.
Not an Achilles, you know what I mean. It's a joke. I mean, knock on some fake wood. I definitely don't mean that, but you know what I mean. Like, how long snapper being a snapper. So you're a long snapper, for anyone that might not know, and you taught yourself while over in the desert. I've heard you say, while still currently a military member. What has to happen to take someone's long snapping gig, because it seems like a job that the turnover can't be very high.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, and I've only been doing it started snapping 3 years ago. I went, like you said, I was in 6 years, and then when I went back to college, I stayed in the National Guard for additional 4 more. So I did 10 total, and I actually deployed 2 more times to Afghanistan during the summer, like between seasons.
Wow.
So I started snapping on deployment, basically. I started snapping back here a little bit, and then I went over there and like worked on it every day, every time I had free time, and came back and was able to win the job and keep it for the last 3 years. But yes, but I've only been doing it for 3 years. That's just there's still I could still get better. But I mean, a lot of these guys, they've been doing it since they were like 8, or 10 or whatever, and they're big guys, big bodies. So it's just tough, man. I mean, there's no turnover, like you said, at that position. They had last year. I don't think any rookies made it. This year, the Patriots drafted somebody in the 5th round. That's the only one that did make it. So it's one of those things, man. I mean, I'm actually going to a combine or whatever you call it, pro day. I don't know what it's called. It's called Major League Football. Have you heard of this?
No.
I think it's like a minor league thing. It's the first season. They're going to play in the spring of 2016. Like this spring coming up.
Oh, I've said that for a while. There should be a league that plays in the spring.
So I don't know how competitive it's going to be or really good, or maybe I'm not even good enough to make it. I don't know, but I'm going to go down and snap for that, and maybe do that in the springtime. It'd be fun.
Just add another thing to your crazy resume already.
First ever long snapper signed in the Major League Football league which lasted 1 season. Who knows? I don't
Did you get to know you were in training camp with Seattle?
Yeah.
Just recently. I know until mid to late August. How was that experience there coming from? You played. I didn't even say anything about it yet, but you went to Texas and played 4 years there, like you said, won the job and snapped for the last 3 as a 28, 29-year-old freshman?
Yeah, well, I snapped when I was 31, 32, and 33. Those were my 3.
So how was it, first off, how was it being 31 years old in college?
It was fun.
I mean, it had to be awesome because you had all these life experiences too. Yeah. So naturally people, I'm sure, wanted to kind of hang around with you. Was it weird? Did you ever feel say you went out, you guys would go out with your buddies to a bar after a game or whenever. Did you feel like you were babysitting guys?
No, I'd say they probably babysitted me more than the other way around. I didn't go out that often, but if I went out pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie.
How did you ever run into an instance? Because I could see this happening. I could see how stupid and immature I am. If you say I was 21 and I was in college and you showed up. I mean, I would have bugged you with questions all day long about military stuff, I'm sure. So we wouldn't have been able to hang out because I would have just annoyed you. But if we went out, I could see guys trying to be tough or trying to be over the top. Oh yeah, okay, my buddy Nate's gonna take care of you. He basically got Bin Laden. Were you ever put in a situation like that where guys would just use you as their bodyguard?
No, not really. No, like I said, they babysitted me more than the other way around. If I went out, here's the thing. So when you're going out with guys that are, and I love these guys. I'm still friends with a lot of them. But when you're 10 years older than the guys you're going out with, to deal with the conversations they're about to have with girls, I had to be borderline blackout. I couldn't be, I had to get to a certain place where I felt like I just didn't care anymore and I was having fun. So, I go downtown. I'm the guy that's sitting there drinking, and instead of, I don't want to go up and talk to some girl and look like a freaking creep, So I'll just sit back there and toss pieces of ice, and try to hit her in the try to hit her in the nugget or something. Get her attention that way, or I don't know. It was bad. It was fun though. It was a great time. But the only thing that ever annoyed me was just hearing the stuff people bitch about, the little things, not just in the locker room. I'd say more in the classroom, hearing the stuff all the Greek life problems, that are so tragic.
Oh, goodness. That has to be tough. Oh gosh, yeah, man. That I saw a picture too. You had a sweet mustache for a little bit in college, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had my facial hair grows pretty red, and so it gets pretty gnarly.
That just adds to that your persona there as the older guy. You're hanging out, and he's like, "Who's this? Who's the dude over here with the sweet red mustache, creeping on everybody?" So you're just sitting in the corner. Yeah, I mean that is what a unique experience you had to go back, and especially to go in Austin too, because Austin is considered, and everyone knows, just to live in Austin. I have buddies that live there; they love it, and I've heard college life is amazing there. So that had to be quite the experience for you on many levels.
No, it was a great time. I'm not gonna lie, I had a great time.
That's good.
I was like Frank the Tank, man. I had a great time.
You deserved it. You deserve it.
I had a
It's like my buddy Anthony Schlegel came over from the Air Force Academy. He played there for 2 years and then transferred, but he was somehow like 3 years older than us, even though we like graduated high school at the same time, basically. Well, I don't know, but he was the same class as us in college, and we would hang out with him. And Frank the Tank at times. That was his MO. But he was so it was so funny. He left the Air Force Academy with all that structure, and they wouldn't let him. He had all these rules and things that he lived by, and then he came to Ohio State, and he was like, "Wow, I can kind of do what I want. I don't have to go sit in a closet for 6 hours if I don't carry my bag the right way." So those first couple months were an adjustment period for him, where he had to adjust to being free again. I think was that something that when you got to Texas you realized how you realized how lucky. Did you ever sit back and look at like these kids and like, these kids have no idea how good they have it?
all the time.
Still do, I'm sure.
First year there, I went to a fraternity party with some of the guys from the team, right? And so I'm there, and I'm having fun, shotgunning a few beers, whatever, try to fit in. And of course, there's some young girls running around. They're just like, "How old are you?" All this stuff, and I just was like, whatever. But I remember walking around. I'm getting ready to leave or something like that. And I walk by this girl who's having a conversation with this other girl, and the only thing I hear her say is, "I just really want to marry a Fiji." Like, I was just like, "Oh my God, all right, I'm out of here. I can't take this."
I understand why you had to get blacked out, man.
Yeah,
I understand. That had to be good.
I had a great time there, but there was times like that where I was just like, "Oh my goodness, you just have no idea."
Yeah, you have to.
I hope you do marry a Fiji.
You deserve to marry a Fiji.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, I love it. I love hearing that stuff. I was always curious about what it was like to go back as a couple years older than the rest of the crew. So, we're 10. Hey, whatever. You walk in, instant respect. But you graduated, right? What was your major?
I did my undergrad. I got in kinesiology, and I actually just finished my master's in advertising in the spring.
Now, you said something about advertising not being exactly related to film. It's pretty much, though. Do you realize being out there that it's directly, if I can say it right, related to film? Because if a movie doesn't get the advertising it needs and the dollars to promote it, it doesn't do well, I'm sure.
No, it's true. It's definitely true. I think I just wanted to study more like film production. You know what I mean? Instead of the marketing aspect of things. But it's good that I did learn that. I did study advertising because I think I learned a lot of things for the business that I'm glad I just know, and I don't have to really, like a lot of the terminology. Because there's, I worked at a production company with Peter Berg's place, and half the stuff that they're talking about in there, and more than that, is not really film related. It's business related, or marketing related, or like how do we sell this thing? What is this movie? What are we pitching it as? Whatever. So you use a lot of the same terminology that you would in advertising. It's sort of the same kind of plans, you know what I mean? And even a lot of the same software for organizing things. So it was not a bad it was not a bad master's to get. I wanted to do film production, but I don't think it wouldn't have been possible really while playing. At least the masters, it was just too much, too intense. They're filming stuff all weekend. We got games on weekends, So it's just the way it was. But
those pesky football games get in the way of traveling to Iraq and deploying while you're currently a college football player. Now I've kept you a little long, but I'm not going to keep you too much longer. But I just wanted to ask you quickly about so that first deployment, boom, you went over. But then, so you were in the National Guard for 4 years in college, and you said you deployed twice during the summer?
Yeah.
How does that work, and how long did you go over?
I went for like 4 months, and then so Admiral McCraven, who was a Navy SEAL, but he was also eventually the head of Special Operations Command. He also went to UT. He ran track at UT back in like the 70s or something like that. So he would come back for games while he was still the SOCOM commander. And it was like after my first year playing long snapping, we beat Baylor at home, and he was there. And he comes in the locker room, and he's like celebrating with us. And he comes up to me. He's like, so what do you, the summer before I went to like Bulgaria and Greece or something like that for like training missions. And he was like, where do you want to go this summer? You want to go somewhere? And I was like, I want to go to Afghanistan. And he was like, done, and maybe he was in the heat of the moment, but he stuck to his word and he made it happen. And so he got me back with Special Forces over there for my last 2 summers. Between my sophomore, junior, and then junior, senior year. And I basically would do spring ball, would play the spring game. Then I would get ready to take my finals early. And then I would deploy in April, and I would come back. They'd fly me back commercially, like right before training camp started. So I'd get back like the day before. I literally fly into Kabul, into the capital, on a commercial airplane, and then get picked up by like a white Land Cruiser. And then 4 months later, they drop me off at the airport, and I get on the plane and go back.
Jeez, man. That right there is ridiculous. Like you said, get back a day before training camp. Were you excited to get back to camp, or would you rather been in Afghanistan?
I was excited.
Yeah.
Back to football. Like I loved it over there. Don't get me wrong. I love firefights. I love the training. I love being able to like work out in the middle of the night and it not be weird. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I don't know why. It's just kind of, it's like a vacation in a weird way. My buddy actually has a T-shirt that he bought off online. I don't know who sells it, but it's hilarious. But it just says, it's a ripoff of, you ever seen What About Bob, that old Bill Murray movie? Oh, yeah. When he's talking about take a vacation from your problems. It just says Afghanistan, take a vacation from your problems. And it's true though, because when you go over there, you got no cell phone. You don't have any of that other stuff. Like, obviously you're at war. Like that's a whole nother thing. But your life here sort of gets put on pause, which is hard when you have a family. I don't, fortunately, but and you can just, a lot of that stress is gone. Like the stress of worrying about the stupid shit that we have to, kind of keep up with, all the mundane stuff here that just drives you nuts. All that goes away, and you just focus on your job, focus on your training. If, for me, I was training to stay in football shape. I focus on all those little things, and there's no distractions. So in a way, it's like a vacation.
Yeah, minus the breaking doors down looking for bad dudes with suicide vest on.
I know.
Yeah, man, that's awesome to hear. I just think that's so cool that you would go and do that in between seasons. I mean, for summer. Think what your other guys were, think what everyone else was doing in the summer.
Running 110s or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. Those suck too.
There's no humidity in Afghanistan, man.
Really? Is that true?
No, it's hot. There's just no humidity. It's humid. It's humid in Austin. It's not humid in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Or Iraq. I mean, it's the desert. It's the higher desert in Afghanistan, but it's in Iraq. It's like straight desert. It's super hot, but not humid. It's like the worst parts of Arizona.
So before your first, I was thinking of earlier, before your first deployment, in your first combat mission or whatever, are you looked at differently from other teammates or other guys that are on your team if you have not been, deployed, or you haven't been a part of any combat missions? And then once you do, is it like your cherries pop and they cut your tie off? Is it that whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, for me it was different because of my experience, like where I was before I got back to my unit to deploy. So like when I was over, with Delta, I had all that time there. So I get to my special forces, my Green Beret team, we call them ODAs. I get to my ODA, and they're like, some of those guys were like kind of in awe of me. And I was like, why? I'm like, yo, like I've never deployed. They're like, yeah, but you went to, that's crazy. You went over there without even, you've barely been in, and you just went and did that. Like, that's awesome. And so that was cool. So I kind of, that afforded me a little bit of respect that I probably hadn't earned. But I earned it to them because I'd gone through that training, and I'd been selected. And so I just had that. I had that in my hip pocket, which helped a lot. So I went on deployment. Plus, I'd been to the Darfur. So I'd seen, what war can do. I've been to a third world country. So it was my first combat deployment, but I had a little bit of it. I didn't feel like it. You know what I mean? It felt like I didn't have to, I don't think I had the same nerves and the same kind of new guy persona or whatever you want to call it that most people would have.
It makes sense. Yeah, that would demand I would assume that would demand tons of respect when you show up a guy like that. Just you on a whim, you basically just told the guy you want to go, and then boom, you're selected and all that. So yeah, that's I think I'm sure they felt that when you walked in, they already knew of you before you were assigned to that team. But in that, so it's always the thing that I like to ask the guys that served. Like, did you react? How did you? How does it compare? How does combat compare from what you had built it up in your mind before you ever, deployed to what it really was? Like, I don't know, did it sound the same? Did it look the same? Did time slow down? Like, what was the difference in what you had built up in your mind, what you thought of combat might be, and what it really was?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know if I really had built up much of it in my mind. Maybe it was just so wrong that I didn't realize how different they were. But I mean, I'd say as far as that talking about time, like things definitely slow down. But I think that's a product of all the training you go through. You know what I mean? Like it's like when you're playing football and the game slows down a little bit, it's because you're in the zone. You know what I mean? Like things are working. You like playing linebacker, you know where the ball's going, you know where the play's going. You're just in that mode where it's just everything's clicking. You're a step ahead. It's the same type of thing I think once the bullets start flying, because a lot of time our training is so high paced, and it's always like the worst, the worst conditions possible, or the most intense, highest stakes possible on a training mission. You know what I mean? And so then when you're out there, like, yeah, some of the stuff you do is very high stakes and dangerous, but sometimes you go out there and you go snatch a bad guy up and nothing happens. They weren't armed and you just arrest them. But then sometimes you're just cruising down the road not expecting anything to happen, and a roadside bomb goes off. You're in the middle of a firefight, and so it's just weird because it's not predictable at all. You know what I mean? So I guess I probably had images just from movies and stuff of like, okay, I'll fly into Iraq. We'll be getting off the plane amidst gunfire, and like, you know what I mean? But it was probably like that when the war first started, maybe at times. But I'd gotten there, 4 years later or whatever, and so it was a little bit different. But still, like, I mean, where we were deployed to, my team in Iraq, we were in the middle of nowhere in this little team house. It's just the 12 of us. On my first deployment, and we had no big base anywhere near us. We hired Iraqi guards to be our outer security. Like it was just different. It was not what I expected in that regard, for sure.
That's just always a thing.
I kind of liked it better that way.
Yeah, it's just always a question I that seems crazy to me to think of. Like, wow, like before it ever happens, before you're ever really in the heart of it in a firefight, like what? I don't know, because it's so crazy to think about. And me, like, I think we all as men, as humans, we wonder, like, well, how would I react? Would I crawl into a little ball and sit under a rock? Like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. So That's always something I like to ask you guys, because I think I have so much respect for that. And you guys tested yourself to the highest limit, with the highest stakes. So it's something that I don't know. I just always wonder. It's always something that I feel like I try to ask you guys, but that's I don't know, man. I'm gonna let you roll here and wrap this thing up. But I wanted to let you tell people anything that you might have going on charity wise. Are you part of the Water Boys movement?
Oh yeah, dude. I got to tell you about what we're doing, man. So you are too, right?
Yeah, that's why I saw you're doing that. I'm with that Chris Long started. It's a really cool thing. So yeah, let us know what you're doing.
So my thing's kind of so you all have like the 30, you're trying to do 32 wells for 32 teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my deal is like completely different. It's basically, it's with Water Boys, it's with you guys, and it's kind of, in a way, it's almost kind of competing with you guys, trying to, but in like a healthy competition. Like I want, you know what I mean? I want us all to.
We're all trying to help people, so yeah.
Yeah. I want us all to like make each other better and raise more money together, while competing, if that makes sense. But I'm taking a guy, his name's Blake Watson. and it's at least going to be him. And there may be more soldiers that come with us. But anyway, he's a single leg amputee. He took a knee on a IED in his first like month in Iraq or something, like his first deployment. I know that. Took a knee. I mean, it blew his leg off, honestly. And so he's above the knee amputee. And we're gonna go climb Kilimanjaro in February, and we're only gonna go if we raise enough money for. Our goal is 2 clean water wells between the two of us. So he can dedicate one in Blake's name, and then I want to dedicate one to a buddy of mine, Brad Keys, who passed away in 2012, and he was like my best friend in Special Forces with me, and anyway, he was a great guy. He married a single mother that had a child with cerebral palsy. And was just like the most stand-up dude you could ever imagine. And then, unfortunately, he passed away. But I'd like to dedicate a well in his honor. And then that's our goal. But I mean, I'd like to raise more than that. I'd like to raise enough for 10 wells. You know what I mean? So, but that's what we're shooting for. But yeah, we're gonna go climb the mountain.
Wow. What kind of training do you do for that?
I'm just winging it. No, I mean. I'm sure I'll be fine. The altitude is going to be the biggest issue, I think, because it's 19 plus, so it's pretty high. I'm going to climb. I think next weekend I'm going to go out to. It's called Mount Baldy out here, and it's part of the San Gabriels in Southern California, but it's only like 10,800 or something like that, so it's still much lower. I might go out to Colorado Springs sometime next month and. Go do Pikes Peak or something like that. I know a bunch of people out there. I was stationed there before, so we'll see. But I'd like to do a few things like that and kind of use those also as sort of like kind of fundraising events or something like that. I haven't really worked that yet, but we're running short on time because February's coming up pretty quick.
All right, and how can people? Do you have a link or anything that we can go to so people can try to support you? We'll put any link up, anything you want.
Yeah, we're finalizing the link right now, so. Nicole, who works with Chris for the Chris Long Foundation and Waterboy, we're working on that right now. We just are kind of in the final stages of that, so it should be this week actually.
Cool, man. Yeah, we'll put it up when I post this. If the link is ready, we'll definitely put it up for you and
Sweet. Let
people know. That's awesome, man. That's pretty cool. Like what you're.
It'll be great.
Yeah, man, and you've seen it all. That's well, man. That's you're doing some great things, and then career-wise, we don't want anyone to get hurt. No one in the NFL to get hurt, but obviously if there's any turnover at the long snapping position, I'm sure you're first on the list for people, for teams to call. So that I know that's always out there. And then career-wise, other than football, what do you foresee in the future for you?
I'm working in film, and that's what I want to do. Do
you want to act at all? Yeah,
I do. I want to do that too. That's not like my main focus right now, but. Definitely, I may have an opportunity coming up to do a little bit of that too. So, I think it would be cool. I think it's important to have more, I guess veterans advocates and veterans themselves kind of in this industry. I think it's awesome. Sports is getting a taste of that and always has been because a lot of athletes were in the military or end up being in the military and stuff like that. But the film industry doesn't really cross that line too often. Once in a while, but not really. And so it's like I said, the movies about the military stuff like that are getting better and better. And but I'm not only interested in those stories. I'm interested in all kinds of stories. It's just that'll probably be something I'll start out doing because I have that background.
Oh yeah. That's I'm excited to see where that goes for you, man. My father-in-law, popping his head in here. But I forget. Oh no, I don't. I just want to ask you quickly about. Do you know the Go Ruck guys?
Which guys are the Go Ruck guys?
Go Ruck. I guess they were. I mean, unless I'm wrong.
The Load guys, which are very similar.
What is it?
Carry the Load.
Oh, the Go Ruck is they were supposedly started by some ex Green Berets or there's no ex Green Berets. You guys are Green Berets for life, obviously. But and they've raised they raised money for for I think families of the Green Beret. I don't know exactly. I'm probably speaking out of school, but I know I have a Go Ruck backpack that I carry at the stadium. It's what I use, and it's legit. It is no joke.
Right. That's sweet. Yeah. No, I need to reach out to those guys.
Yeah, so that's what I know. They do their whole like movement, the Go Ruck movement, their whole like weekend long run thing where they load their packs up and they take them through. It's like a whole team building process. The only reason I know about this because Todd, who I've talked about on here, he runs the site here. My buddy, he did one of the weekend run things, and I guess it was amazing. He said it was crazy difficult, but it was a huge like team building leadership thing that they're doing. So it sounds like they have a pretty cool movement going. So for anything, I know I'm pretty sure they're Green Berets, but I don't know. There's a lot of good things going on, man. And you're at the forefront of all this. And you're a young 34-year-old that I don't know. You gonna start a family someday? You think?
Maybe.
No, hopefully. No. I was gonna reference that girl that was. Hopefully, if that girl didn't marry a Fiji, she's gonna be looking for you.
He's out there.
She's gonna find you on Tinder, Facebook. I don't know. All right, man. Where are you at on Twitter so people can find you?
At Nate Boyer 37.
Sweet. We'll put that link up as well for you. I'll be following you. I'm excited for you, man. I hope I hope you get a shot with another team in the league, and I think everyone will love to hear your story. So I really appreciate you coming on here, man. I kept you super long, but I'm sorry. I have a billion questions I still want to ask. So you're gonna have to be a repeat guest for me at some point.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, man, for sure. When you're starring in that next great movie, and it's not even gonna be a military movie. You're gonna play like I don't know. You're gonna be like a Daniel Day-Lewis type guy, but you're gonna play. I don't know. You're gonna do something, and it's not even and nothing military related, because I know as people get annoyed with, like you said, your guys with your team. When you hang out, they want to sit there and they don't want to talk about what they just did or their work all day. They want to talk about fantasy football or NASCAR or whatever they're into. So that's your mission. That's what I think. You're going to spread your wings into something awesome. Maybe you'll play like I don't know. Maybe you'll be like a ballet dancer or something crazy, just to really show your appeal to everybody, and that you can cross over into many different genres.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that. Maybe a bald eagle. Play a bald eagle. He's still pretty American.
Yeah, you'll do something great, man. You already are. Nate Boyer, really appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot, and hopefully we will talk again soon.
All right, I hope so too.
All right, man. See you.
See you, man.
We're glad you could join us for today's conversation. After you subscribe to the show, head over to thehawkcast.com or reach out to AJ directly on Twitter at @officialAJHawk to recommend future guests that will help us inspire people to keep talking. Thanks again, and we look forward to speaking with you next time on the HawkCast.